Have you ever met someone so kind that saying no feels like a sin to them? The kind of person who shows up for everyone, but slowly disappears from their own life. At first, people celebrate them. They call them rare, a blessing, and even someone heaven sent. But there is a quiet truth most people never talk about. Not all kindness heals. Some kindness slowly empties the soul. Because when a person keeps giving, without ever pausing to refill, they don't become a hero. They become invisible to themselves. And the dangerous part is that the world will gladly drink from a full cup, but it never asks who is filling it. If an ant tries to feed an elephant, it will spend its entire life thinking it is not good enough. This is the story of a man named Abel, a man who believed that loving others meant sacrificing himself, until life taught him a painful truth. The very people whom he once helped were the same faces that sent him to prison. Listen carefully, because each line in this story can change the way you treat yourself. Long ago, in a small, quiet village surrounded by green hills, where life moved slowly and people knew each other by name, lived a 30-year-old man named Abel. Abel had the kindest heart anyone had ever seen. It wasn't loud kindness, but the kind that gives and forgets it ever gave. He smiled easily in public. He loved helping people. And whenever someone needed help, Abel was always there. But there is something life teaches too late to people like Abel. A heart that is open to everyone, without limits, eventually has no place left to rest. Every morning before the sun rose, while the village was still quiet, Abel would walk through the entire neighborhood, not because he had nothing to do, but because he believed someone, somewhere, needed him. And to Abel, being needed felt like love. One day, he helped an old woman wash her clothes and cleaned her kitchen. Another day, Abel repaired a young man's goat pen. Some days, he carried heavy loads for neighbors, and every time someone called, "Abel, come help me," he didn't think, he responded easily, because he had taught himself something dangerous. If I can help, I must always do. But what he didn't realize was that, when helping becomes an obligation, it stops being kindness and starts becoming quiet self-neglect. Even at work, Abel was the same. Whenever a coworker struggled, he stepped in, not after finishing his own work, but instead of finishing them. Piece by piece, he traded his responsibilities for other people's comfort. And slowly, his own life began to fall behind. The boss would shout, "Abel, why is your work never finished?" Abel would lower his head in silence, while his own work piled up. But what even surprised most of the villagers was that during the dry season, where plant leaves withered, Abel would water other people's crops, while his own soil was drying up. But life has a way of being honest, even when people are not. Because what you neglect will never beg for your attention. It will simply disappear. Then came the day that changed everything. Abel had worked since morning, and when he was passing a neighbor's house to go rest, Mr. Edward called him. "Abel, my door is broken. Help me fix it." Without hesitation, Abel went ahead, as he always does. He spent hours working. His body was tired. His strength was fading. But exhaustion has never stopped a person who believes resting is selfishness. So he kept working. After he finished, before Abel could even breathe, Mr. Edward said, "Take my sheep to the field." Something inside Abel felt wrong. A quiet voice, soft but real, said, "You need to rest." But another voice, louder and older, replied, "If you say no, you are not being a good person." And that is how many people lose themselves, not because they don't hear their inner voice, but because they don't trust it. So Abel went ahead to feed the sheep and took them to the field. While the sheep were grazing peacefully, something terrible happened. A snake suddenly appeared in the grass, and before Abel could even react, the snake bit one of the sheep. The sheep collapsed and died immediately. Abel was shocked and heartbroken. He carefully carried the dead sheep back to Mr. Edward. But instead of understanding, Mr. Edward bursted into anger. "You careless man," he shouted. "You let my sheep die." No matter how much Abel tried to explain, Mr. Edward refused to listen. Abel tried again, but his explanations meant nothing. It felt like a servant talking to his master and not someone helping his neighbor. Soon the situation became worse. Mr. Edward accused Abel of carelessness. At long last, Abel was taken away and sent to prison for 1 month. Imagine that! A man who spent his entire life helping others is being punished by the very people he sacrificed for. But kindness has a painful flaw. It does not protect you from blame. And this is one of life's hardest truths. The more available you become, the more people assumed you are responsible for everything. A man who once gave everything, punished for something he never intended to do. After 1 month, when Abel returned from prison, something inside him had changed, not broken completely, but shaken deeply. Because pain does something strange. It forces you to ask questions you were too busy to ask before. How did I end up here? How did love lead me to pain? Abel fell into depression, because when a person feels betrayed, they feel hurt. But when a person loses themselves, they feel empty. One night, at the bar, a wise old man sat beside Abel. He didn't rush to speak, because wisdom does not interrupt pain, but it waits for it to breathe. Then he said, "Son, you look like someone who has been pouring into others, and forgot that you were also meant to drink." Abel was shocked. He opened up, and the old man listened. Then he said something simple, but life-changing. Kindness is a gift, but without boundaries, it becomes a burden. You cannot save everyone while slowly losing yourself. But listen carefully. A river that tries to please the ocean by filling the sea will always be empty, because it never thought of itself first. If you teach people that you come last, they will never put you first. Those words didn't just reach Abel's ears, they reached the part of him he had ignored for years. That night, he fell into a deep sleep because he had uncovered the truth. Abel didn't become a selfish man, but he became a wise one. The next morning, he chose himself first, not instead of others, but alongside them. Abel worked on his farm. He cared for his home. He fed his body. And slowly, his life began to change. Because when you finally show up for yourself, life begins to meet you halfway. People noticed. Abel was still kind, but now he was no longer available at the cost of his peace. And when someone asked him for help, Abel would reply gently, "I will help you after I finish my work." That sentence may sound simple, but for someone like Abel, it was freedom. And in that balance, he found something he had never truly felt before: peace. If you see yourself in Abel, listen closely. You were not created to be everything for everyone, and nothing for yourself. Kindness should not cost you your life. Love should not require your disappearance. And sacrifice without wisdom will always lead to regret. So learn this now, before life teaches it painfully. Take care of your heart. Protect your energy. Respect your limits. Because the moment you start valuing yourself is the time the world learns to do the same. And never forget, you cannot pour water from an empty cup unless it is already full. If this video helped you, kindly hit the subscription button, like, comment, and share for your friends to also learn some real-life truth.